Hi everybody, hi every spirit, welcome very much to the channel. Esoteric Cloud Surfer here. Today we'll talk about Mars in Leo for 2024. Before we start, leave a like and subscribe and use the links down below to know more about my content and to book services with me. So let's get started. First, what is Mars and what is Leo? Mars represents our passion, motivation, anger, frustration, and deep desires. Leo is fixed fire, so it's the ability to be consistent, sure, or stubborn with your expressions, actions, and visions that deal with your individuality, your uniqueness, your entertainment, and the things that you like to be entertained by as well, the things that you pay attention to, the things that you like to be paid attention because, and also your creativity, but more in a consistent way. Always remember that it's not so loose as Pisces, or not so rashful, or not thinking before doing something like Aries, right? So Mars going into Leo will bring our passions, motivations, anger, and frustrations to a space where we will want to see ourselves in a good light. Or you might be more preoccupied about the thing that you like to pay attention to, for an example. So imagine you like to pay attention to a show or a person or an organization, right? And that starts to receive some shade, some backlash. You might get frustrated because you want to see it and you want to others to see it in a good light. Because remember, the opposition of Leo is Aquarius, the 11th house, worldwide, big topics, big subjects, big groups, big discussions, right? So sometimes for us to feel balanced and completed on the Leo energy, we want the things that we personally like to pay attention to be seen in a bigger way, in a similar way, or at least in a positive way, like we do, right? So also, very important here, it will be about exposure, right? Sun in, every time an alignment is in Leo, it's easier to expose it. It's easier for you and for others to see it. Now, perhaps you were already diving into your individuality, perhaps you were already diving into your creativity, passions, and motivations, and you were already seeing it, but now you can see a bit more, or you can see different angles that you were not seeing. And most likely, but not only, those angles or those new perspectives will be how can you be more confident in yourself, how can you trust more yourself, or how can you handle the pressure from the world, aka I mean Aquarius and 11th house, because it can be cold, it can be very unpersonal, like just make a YouTube video or go live on Twitch or post something on social media, and you can have a lot of comments just talking some shit because they don't care, and that's okay. It's not supposed for them to care until they start caring, right? It's up to you in general, and now specifically with Mars in Leo, to create a powerful vehicle with trust. How so a powerful vehicle? So you can travel to those spaces where you see some comments being mean to you or no comments at all, and when you think about it, right, you don't feel bad or so bad. You feel perhaps a bit more motivated, you feel strong, you feel okay, it hurts a little bit but it's worth it, or you just feel good about it because you're receiving attention for the things you want to expand on, right? But the goal is for you to create a passionate or frustrated, because sometimes frustration helps us keep going and ignore or bypass the quote-unquote negative stuff, right? So your passions and motivations, anger and frustrations have to be in that space where you cast a good light on it, independently of if the external world, the world in itself, the opposition to Leo, Aquarius, independently if that is cold or detached from it or not. It's up to you to keep that going and to build, because it's always consistency. When it's all about fixed signs, it's all about consistency. It's about you building something or dealing with what you were already building previously, right? And then we have another positive part, which is if you are already into creativity, into your personal interests, into your personal insecurities as well, because we can make that a security and some profit out of it, emotionally and physically. So if you're already into those spaces, it's easier for you to show up to others and it's also easier for others to see you. Now, that doesn't mean they will be relating or thinking about you or engaging with your content or with yourself, but like I said, it's about building. So if you keep showing up with a good energy, with some good entertainment, with uplifting momentum, even if you have only haters right now, slowly but surely they'll start to see you, aka Leo, Sun, seeing, they'll start to see you in the way that you are creating, right? In that light that you are casting upon yourself, your creativity, passion, and desires. And actually, that's a great spiritual lesson, because that's how mostly we create things or we change the world. Is you create this light, you create through your expressions, through your actions, and through your visions and how you communicate about them. You create this light, you create this quote unquote illusion, and others will start to see that, and you in the way that you see, of course, through their own angle, through their own perspective, but they'll start to slowly but surely get more interested, more passionate, and relate to you or the thing that you are doing, right? But that doesn't mean you will achieve it right now with Mars in Leo. It's about building. And firstly, you gotta build internally that confidence, that trust. You gotta be entertained by what you're doing, and you gotta see the value and you entertaining or uplifting or bringing a good light to others as well. And it's not about you worrying about doing it. It's like you already are in that space. You're not doing what you do to achieve that. You're already in that space, and then by consequence, you do those things, that creativity, that expression, that talking, that work, whatever that is in a good, positive, uplifting, consistent light. You know what I'm saying? So let's just touch a little bit on the negative sides of Mars in Leo here. You can get blind by your own light. Maybe you need to correct something. Maybe you need to use other energies to balance your creativity, passions, or motivations. But perhaps you're too giddy, you're too self-confident, you're overconfident, or you are allowing yourself or others to sugarcoat a situation where you need to be a bit more strong and go in and force something, or to be a bit more private, or to be just a bit more active, right, in general. But you or others might be sugarcoating, or even the world, quote unquote, might be sugarcoating, as in maybe you're receiving some money or some validation about your passions, motivations, anger, and frustrations, and now you feel like you don't need to change anything. You just need to keep consistent with what you are doing. But perhaps spiritually and personally, you need to evolve, do more, do differently, or take a break, or go do something else, or involve yourself with other projects and visions. But because you're receiving that validation, you're receiving that money, you're receiving that support from the external world, that is working as a sugar coating, and you might not take the necessary actions and impulses and frustrations. Maybe you are receiving money from something that you enjoy doing, but you're frustrated with something about it, and you're not addressing it because you're receiving the validation, you know? So the good light of Leo can blind you or make you feel too comfortable under the sun, and you don't take the necessary steps to go even further, all right? But in general, it's a quote-unquote positive aspect. Mars likes to be in Leo, right? Just don't be too stubborn, right? Don't be too fixed. But in general, Mars enjoys that stability. Mars enjoys this consistency because it's still fire. It's not too far away from its own element, because Mars rules Aries, right? So it's still the own element and brings more predictability, more consistency to all those passions and motivations, which is great. But negatively, you can actually now break something that you were building up, but that can be good, like I was saying, right? So let's move on now to see how is Mars aligning with the rest of the sky at the moment. So the Sun is in Scorpio, so Mars will be squaring the Sun in Scorpio, so we'll be learning how to express, act, and see ourselves, our passions, motivations, anger, and frustrations, and the world's passions, motivations, anger, and frustrations in a more emotional, sentimental, deep, private, and transformative way. The thing is, Mars is also ruled by Mars also rules Scorpio, so there is here a bit more of a connection, of more of a relatability between the Sun and Mars. But the conflict will come from or if there is a conflict, it comes from the how should or if you should express it, or to whom, or into which degree, how far should you go in expressing your passions, motivations, anger, and frustration. Because Sun in Scorpio deals a lot with privacy, not showing something or showing to the right person, showing to somebody or a group of people that you already went through some transformative circumstances or you shared some deep emotions. So here the conflict we have to, or what we have to learn is who can we express, when and how. Is there some value? Is there some purpose? Are we transforming in the right direction? If that is all yes, or some of those questions you can answer yes, then you should express. Then you should pay attention to certain passions or frustrations. If not, just keep private, keep focusing on your own deep emotions and feelings, and you'll create/find the right audience, group, or situations to go deep and pay attention to certain desires. You know what I'm saying? Moving on, Mercury is also very fresh into Sagittarius. We'll make a video about it here on the channel. So it will be a trine between Mars and Mercury. Mars in Leo, Mercury in Sagittarius. Right? So we have a gift to think, communicate, and analyze in a more mutable, in a more light, in a more communicative, and in a more sharing and expansive way about our passions, motivation, anger, frustrations, and deep desires. But Mercury is in Sag, so it's not as logical. Remember that Mercury rules Virgo, rules Gemini, and is exalted in Aquarius. So it's all about thinking and communicating in a more logical, realistic, cold, and detached way. While Sagittarius, or the fire element in general, it's all about spirituality, creativity, feelings, looking a certain way, making yourself uplifted, creating illusions, creating imaginations. So it might lack the logicality, it might lack the sense and the details from other alignments, but it's still a gift. So imagine maybe you were feeling blocked or procrastinating, or you weren't feeling so sure or trustworthy about yourself, your passions and frustrations. With this gift, Mercury in Sagittarius, it's easier for you to be uplifted, it's easier for you to receive some upliftment because of the mutable scenario. It's easier for you to expand your wisdom and knowledge by being fixed in your passions and motivations if you bring a good light, a good attention, good motivation, and good energy to it, right? But also, we have a gift to be super scattered, inconsistent, or just, once again, being gullible or being fed the wrong type of validation, and you don't move to the spaces you should move because you stay in that same space receiving validation. But in general, especially if you are into spirituality and creative works, this is a beneficial, or it has more probability to be a beneficial trine than anything else, because it will bring just more connection and expansion to your passions and frustrations, which in itself can be negative. Maybe just thinking and communicating too much about your anger and frustration, and you think it has some spiritual or profitable purpose, and it might just you be flunk. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to Venus, also in Sagittarius, also a gift with Mars in Leo. So we'll be having a gift to relate, compromise, love, and enjoy the things that makes us feel fixed and consistent in paying attention or expressing about our passions, motivation, anger, frustration, and deep desires. So here, it will be easier for you to connect or get into, or just go deeper into relationships, into friendships, into connections where you share and relate with them passions, motivations, and anger, frustrations. But then also there will be a trine for you or the partner to be stubborn or to be consistent, or if there is something a little bit different, a little bit out of the usual passion and motivation, anger, and frustration, you or your partner can feel a bit insecure, can feel a bit too scattered, not sure, or maybe stressing a bit too much with unpredictability. But in the end, it's still a trine, is still a gift, so it's easier for others to relate with your passions and frustrations. It's easier for others to be talking and communicating and seeing the purpose, seeing the spirituality and the creativity behind your passions and frustrations. And if they don't, well, you shouldn't pay too much attention to it, because that's the negative, quote-unquote, aspect of this trine. Through your passions and motivations, you can be paying attention or fixing your perspective in somebody that is, or in a group of people that is taking those things too lightly, and they can see the purpose. They can see where you're coming from. They can see the spirituality behind your passions and frustrations, but they're still gonna be able to relate with you, or in a certain way that makes you feel or at least perceive some type of validation. So keep that in mind, all right? Then we have Jupiter in Gemini, sextiling Mars in Leo. So we'll have an opportunity to expand on our passions, motivation, anger, and frustration if we can think, communicate, and analyze in a more cold, detached, and logical way, paying more attention to details, paying more attention, for example, to social cues, and just keeping a relationship clear and on a communication basis, right? And remember that Jupiter is now opposing Mercury and Venus, so all that scatteredness, all the lack of logic, the lack of clear communication, the lack of transparency can be achieved through this Jupiter alignment. How do you achieve it? By using logic, by using details and clear communication to go about your wisdom and knowledge. AKA, if you can make your spirituality make sense in a way that you and others can understand it, you'll be able to then use those connections, those communications, that wisdom and knowledge to expand on how you can express, act, and envision your passions, motivation, anger, and frustration, and also deep desires. Then we have Saturn in Pisces, so an in conjunction, a misunderstanding with Saturn and Mars. So you can be passionate about something that you are constantly paying attention to, and that might not be a good fit into what you were building spiritually, or it might be, but it doesn't look / feel like it, right? Because Saturn in Pisces, it's bringing a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot of dreams, illusions, and nightmares to reality, to structure, infrastructure, limits, boundaries, networking, associations, right? So those feelings or those illusions can cast certain perspectives that might not be correct. That's why it's an in conjunction. It's not a total opposition, it's not a gift, right? But it can have all of those properties looking like another property. So you might be on the right track to build a spiritual and creative network where you can share and expand upon your deep passions, motivations, and anger and frustrations, but it might not look like it. It might look like people are not caring about it. It might look like they're too cold. It might look they don't want to associate and add up to your thing. Or maybe they don't care about it, really. They don't really want to be a part of it, but they can talk sweet, or they can make you feel a certain way that makes you feel giddy and ready to connect with these people, and they're just ready to make you sign the contract and run away with your rights, right? So you gotta be really smart about this, because Saturn in Pisces brings the possibility to make your dreams come true, to make your dreams a reality and something that can support you in the future, but also it can make your nightmares just like that, or it can make it look like you have something real where you have really nothing. You're just building somebody else's dream. You're just building somebody else's world, right? So make sure you are using your passion, motivation, anger, frustration, and deep desires that you can / want to express, act, and envision in a consistent, uplifting, and creative way to build your own world. It's very easy with Saturn in Pisces to be convinced or manipulated through sweet actions to build somebody else's world, and then you use all of your charge and you have nothing for yourself. Now you're depending on somebody to give you a cut of your own profit, and that's messed up. You don't want to live like that. Moving on, Neptune also in Pisces, so we have an ability to misunderstand our passions, motivation, anger, and frustrations with grand illusions, grand dreams, your subconscious patterns, or big traumas or early on experience in life that planted a seed within you. So you might be too keen or too passionate about expressing or acting in subconscious traumas or subconscious patterns, but right now you can also be more ready or be more inclined to tackle certain subconscious titles and subjects that maybe you were not aware of, or you were aware but not so completely. Now you can be more passionate or frustrated to clear up and change your subconscious realm in areas where we have to use, quote unquote, the tarot card, the Hanged Man. So what does that mean? The Hanged Man is a man hanged by its feet. So the man represents logic. The feet represents the stability of your emotions and feelings. So you can't use logic. You have to use your subconscious spiritual senses to determine what's going on. So with Mars in Leo, you can see Leo, those Neptune subjects, and then be more passionate or frustrated to deal with them, right? It can look weird and feel weird, but in the end of the day, if you make some progress in that area, it will be very positive. Then we have Uranus in Taurus squaring Mars in Leo, so we are learning how to use our expressions and visions that come from our passions and frustrations to build and be consistent in a realistic and logical way, but that leads us towards some uniqueness, individuality, and change that still is stable and profitable. And lastly, but not least, Pluto in the cusp of Aquarius and Capricorn. So it's still an opposition basically, because both Capricorn and Aquarius are ruled by Saturn, the opposition of the Sun, the furthest away from the Sun. And it's in conjunction from Leo to Capricorn and an opposition from Leo to Aquarius. So right now we are changing deeply, we are transforming how we obtain growth or how we resolve power and control issues, and that is transiting from you being forced to create a new business or a new way to go your daily life in a way that makes sense and you can apply and uphold your limits and boundaries, and it's changing into you transforming how you think, communicate, and analyze in a very real, logical, but unique way about yourself in the world, so you can be a part of unique circumstances and unique structures and unique organizations that can support you in the future. So your passions and motivations can be balanced by that, or can be opposed by that, or you can create the opposition, because Aquarius and Leo are the signs that deal more with uniqueness and individuality. So sometimes the enemy is you either opposing that energy, or you just sitting on your own side of the swing and not balancing it out. So in this specific case, right, you might be misunderstanding how, especially in the past, because Pluto is coming in from Capricorn, how you were forced to change your passions and motivations to fit the new reality and the new schedules. And now it's time to balance your deep passions and motivations that you are expressing in a consistent and uplifting way, so it can fit the world and whatever system you want to be or already a part in, but you have to be unique and individual. You have to clear the sugar coating. You have to not really care so much about validation and do what's right for you, for your passions and frustrations. Keep it unique, keep it in your own way, and keep building your own world. Keep building your own reputation, your own image, your own way to do things, and always have in mind a way to justify to you and others why that makes sense to you, why is that unique, and how are you using your passions and frustrations in a creative and consistent way to change the world and build the world that you want to live in. That goes deep, you know what I'm saying? That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you did, and use the links on below to know more about my content and to book services, readings, and consultations with me. Till the next time, I wish you the best thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and a whole bunch of individuality, creativity, and responsibility as well. See you next time.